Finally. Oh, we've got microphones working, we've got cameras working, the whole lot is finally working. I swear to God, I am cursed when I try to do these first year live streams. All right, let's send this link out. Good afternoon to everybody who is trickling in. I hope you are well today. Copy this link and email it out to all of your classmates so that we can have a bit of a chat about the exam and see how everybody is going and start this road to preparation for the exam. All right. Okie dokie. Hello, everyone. Sorry about the technical freakouts again. I don't know what it is with you guys specifically. Mind, brain, and behavior. No worky. What you gonna do? We're all here. It's worth the wait. Hi, Tishnetta, W, Chenlong. Ophelia and Ash, thanks for jumping in first. How are we all going? How is the free life, the life out of lockdown? Talk about irony. You've just been in lockdown all year and then they let you out of lockdown and you've got to study. That's a bit rough, isn't it? Deary me. Let's turn this around a bit. This is not working for me. There we go. What life, says Mustafa. Yes, very true. I've been trying to have a life lately. It's actually been working a little. Yeah, it'll all be worth it in the end, Mustafa. Just think, get through this study period and one day you too can be sitting in your office pulling what little hair you have left out as you try to get a live stream ready for your psychology students. You kind of miss lectures listening to the new stuff. It's so true, Emily. And Nick obviously had such interesting content. Personality is such an interesting topic, isn't it? And it would have been wonderful to have been able to share more with you. And certainly, I think each lecturer wanted to tell you just more and more and more about what was in each topic area. But we'll get there in time. You'll have to come back again next year. Hi, Elia. How are you? Did I say that right? Elia? Thank you for the smiley face. Was it hard to say? Sorry. No. It's just I need to get a little bit more continental, don't I? Hi, Emily. That's a good question. Is there any mental support services for exams in particular? Yeah, there is. Well, I mean, the university counselling and wellbeing support services certainly have got a range. They're open during um, exams. They have special programs during exams, and um, I think I may have already shared a link about those services during exams. In the get ready for your exam section, there is a link to the counseling and wellbeing services support there, but we'll put another one up. They're certainly going to be available on the day. And the beautiful thing is, this time around, of course, we're doing the exam at one time instead of like we did in Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1, where we had an entire week and you could do it anytime over the week. Now, we know that for most people, unless you've been told differently, you'll be sitting it at that Melbourne, what was it, 2 p.m., I think, on the 23rd of November. Now, I did make a boo-boo in my announcement, and I wrote Australian, time. But, of course, we're on daylight savings time now, aren't we? So, it is daylight savings time, 3 p.m. on the 23rd. So still nearly 3 weeks away. So still a lot of time to get all of that information out there, but I will post it a little bit later today. You're surprised how good English people pronounce it. Is there any way to do the exam at an alternative time? Ophelia, not unless you have, for example, a particular medical condition for which you've gone through a process of getting an official alternative exam arrangement approval in conjunction with Stop One and your health professional. It is possible. So if that is an issue for you, then please certainly get in contact with Stop One and find out about making alternative exam arrangements. But for the most part, everybody's going to be sitting at the same time, which makes it also easier for me from a support perspective as well, in that I'm not needing to be available basically 24/7 for a week. That was a little bit difficult in Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1, but I can be out there during that exam window and ready to swoop in like Homelander and help you with the exams. Homelander? Has anybody been watching The Boys on what's that, Amazon? What's this strange green liquid you're consuming? This is so true. It is a strange green liquid, isn't it? It's absinthe, Henry. It's a big jug of absinthe. No, it is sugar-free lime cordial. And it tastes like sugar-free lime cordial. The F-Man 47, yes, there will be a practice exam like there was for Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1. We're just waiting on the final set of questions to come in. They haven't come in just yet, but they'll be in today. I'm expecting to be able to make that practice exam available today, later today. Kryptonite fluid. The Boys is the best, says F-Man 47. It's so true. Okay, so Erin, the practice exam questions are not from the same question bank as the real exam. What we've done for the practice exam is create a practice exam with 25 questions, 5 questions from each section of the subject, to be mean, no, not to be mean, but to accustom you to the idea of not getting the answers straight away. We're not giving you the answers for those ones. So there might be very similar questions that you find on the exam. Yeah, there will be for the clinical and research methods sections. I can't say for the others off the top of my head, but we will certainly have very similar questions. And indeed, that's the whole point of the practice exam. It's intended to give you a flavor of what to expect from the exam. And so the questions are very representative of what you can expect on the exam. Yuan, thank you for your question. Could you please give some recommendations for how to revise the readings provided? Which particular parts of the readings would you recommend that you pay attention to? Well, that's a very good question. So I've talked a little bit about this in the last stream regarding clinical psychology. You might recall that the Cozy Luck paper was the core reading for clinical psychology. Now, that was the one about stigma and intervening with a group of college students to reduce their level of mental illness stigma. I'm not going to be re-examining that paper in the clinical psychology section of the exam because I've effectively already tested your knowledge of that paper in the lab report, so I don't need to do it again. So the clinical psychology section of the subject is unique in that I won't be examining the core reading. I've already done that. Abby's core reading, and when I talk about the core readings, I'm talking about the readings that were on perusal. Abby, Katie, and Nick will each examine the core readings from their section, excuse me, of the subject. And so they are specifically the ones that are on perusal from social psychology, developmental psychology, and personality psychology. If either Abby, Katie, or Nicholas have told you that there is an additional examinable reading, then you should listen out for that. And there's lots of chatter here. Oh, right, the election. Oh, I don't even want to know. Freaking me out, man. Trump is winning. What? Oh, God, help me. You've sort of got to expect it, right? 2020 has thrown everything at us. Why not more Trump? Oh, God. My advice with readings and with lectures and with practical classes is really always the same. And I understand that we've all got limited amounts of time to spend on any given thing. We need to be efficient and economize our time. And so what you should be doing with, I think, the reading that you might be thinking about from, say, Nick, Abby, or Katie's section of the course is Firstly, attending to what they said about that reading in their lecture. Did they mention it? Did they talk about something to do with that reading? Were they covering some aspect of the reading? And if they were, then I would be pretty confident that that's roughly where the exam question or questions are going to sit. For starters, there might be more than one question from each reading, and indeed, I think there would be 2 or 3. But I would start with the most obvious thing, the core theme, the thing that they've mentioned. And once you've done that, once you've covered what you think is the take-home message from the reading, then I would spread out in terms of my study. And a great way to do that with a reading can be to start your review of the reading or the article or the chapter or whatever it is by looking at some sort of summarizing information. And that might be provided in a summary and conclusion at the end of the reading, or it might be in an abstract at the start of the reading if it's a journal article or something like a lab report, for example. Either way, that summary and concluding information can very quickly lead you to the really important parts of the reading and give you some indication of where you should be looking. Again, paying attention to what the lecturer has focused on in lectures is another really good way to make those connections and anticipate what might be examined. You couldn't find a personality psych rating on perusal. That's interesting. Did Nick have a problem with perusal? Or maybe opt not for perusal. I vaguely remember having this discussion. That's right. So Nick didn't provide his core reading on perusal, did he? He gave you an alternative indication of what that core reading was going to be. Okay, so Nick has detailed his readings for each week, so corresponding to each lecture, in the announcement that he sent as an overview of his section of the subject, and he sent that on October 12th. So if you have a look back through the announcements at October 12, he tells you what the prescribed and therefore examinable readings are for his section of the subject. Both of your parents are talking about the election in the other room, and I just want to study. Oh dear. Love the haircut, Chris. Best part of 2020. It's a work of neglect in process. Yeah, in progress. It's growing out. We'll see what happens. So Yomna asks a really good question. There is going to be some questions coming from the interview with Sandy, the lecture from Sandy. What I can tell you, Yomna, is in that lecture from Sandy, the questions are very much coming from what Sandy has said, not from what I have said. So very much what Sandy has said about her experience of something and her opinion on something. Yeah, the practice exam, Nancy, and everyone who's asking about the practice exam, I think it will be released later today. Just waiting on one last set of 5 questions. And as soon as I've got those, then I will release that practice exam. You'll be able to do it as much as you like. And I've noticed there are lots of people now signing up for Peerwise, which is excellent. So again, if you haven't already signed up for Peerwise, please do as soon as you can. Peerwise is a great study tool, and it's where you can learn collaboratively with your colleagues by creating multiple choice questions and completing and reviewing and rating each other's questions. It's a really great way to study, to really think about what a thing is and also what it is not. Is a great way to learn. And indeed, we hear from students all the time that have maybe gone on to teach psychology that it was actually through the teaching that they felt, and the examination and going through that process, very much like what you go through on Peerwise, that they really felt that is when they learnt the most about the topics. Clarissa, you'll be able to do the practice exam at any time in your own free time. It will be through a Canvas quiz, and that's what the proper exam is going to be through as well. It's a Canvas quiz that will start at a certain time and finish at a certain time. But I think we've all done Canvas quizzes now, and that's what you have in store for the online exam for Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2. Open book. And again, for particularly for students who weren't with us in semester 1, open book means that you can, for example, have a tab open in your browser with the Canvas quiz, the exam, and another tab open with the Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2 Canvas content, and be looking at lectures and be looking at readings and whatnot to help you answer your questions. So in terms of examination, this is pretty, I think pretty low stress, relatively speaking. You'll find it, I think, not too stressful. I certainly hope you won't find it stressful. I think the exam's very fair. You will find that just like with semester 1, most of the exam questions are phrased such that Googling won't help you. So there shouldn't be Googling. You should be referring just to the course materials. And the questions are also worded in a way that if you were to Google, there's nothing you can really Google. So, for example, for clinical psychology, I might say something like, imagine you're a psychologist and a new client comes to you and they are telling you that they're having this particular experience. What do you think might be going on for them? And so that would require that you consider the signs and the symptoms of the experience that I've described in the little vignette, and then you respond to the multiple choice. You choose one of the 4 choices that you have to choose from for every question. So for every question, there are 4 choices: A, B, C, or D. And that type of question, I suppose, isn't one where Google's going to help you, right? It might be one where the coursework helps you, but also Of course, I'm hoping to examine your knowledge of mind, brain, and behavior to content, not examine your ability to look up mind, brain, and behavior to content during the exam. So there will be some very applied questions like that, which I think are also really interesting. And I might describe, certain research scenarios. Imagine you're a researcher and you want to investigate this, or imagine you're a researcher and you did this. And, what would you call, or what particular statistical analysis would you use to answer this question? So you will find that there's not so many questions like, what is central limit theorem? So the questions, I suppose, then are phrased a little bit more appropriately for open book online examination, if that makes sense. Let me have a look here. See if I can find a link. So somebody asked before about some of the resources that are available during the exam time from the University Counselling Service. So in case you don't have it already, there's the link to the University Counselling Service. We'll throw that up there first. Now, there is a section in here around examination and preparing for examination. Exam anxiety, there's a good one. So they've got all these sorts of resources and modules that you can read and that you can work through. Exam anxiety is real. I used to... I think just personally used to worry too much about exams. But it is a real thing. And I understand that exams can be very stressful and anxiety provoking for many people. And there's some really good, as I look through them here, some really good tips and information and suggestions for managing exam anxiety. Actually, these are really good. These are quite clinically sound. So definitely check this out. Oh, you know what would be really good? It would be really good if their links that they've embedded in here would work. Interesting. So, oh, interesting. Somebody's trying to go away, bot. We'll get rid of that bot. I don't know if you guys can see a bot posting in the live chat, but we'll see if we can kick it out. I think it's gone. So, how are people going with approaching study so far? Have we started thinking about a schedule, thinking about scheduling a timetable en route to the 23rd, and thinking about how you can set yourself up to minimize pressure and the need to cram in particular is something you want to avoid? Oh, the workshop's good on exam anxiety. That's good to hear. Excellent strategy in progress, in process. That's good. I can understand it would feel like a lot. There is a lot of information in mind, brain, and behavior too. And again, you can only do with what you can with the time that you've got available. So, what what is good to do is to think about what time you actually have available, and then what can you feasibly do with that time available in terms of preparation for the exam. SCCC, SCCC. There won't be a whole heap of additional admin created questions this semester in PeerWise. There's, of course, practice questions floating around already in the practice exam that will probably go live later on this afternoon. In fact, I might just make it live and then leave it open for people to do as many times as they like, and I'll just add in those final 5 questions when they come through. And then people can check back in and do them again. So the whole idea with PeerWise is that it works best when you are doing it, when you're actively engaged in creating the questions. That's what the evidence would suggest is the really effective thing about PeerWise, that process of creation, reviewing others, rating others, completing other questions. They're the things that work quite well. PALS. So PALS sessions are really good, run by the Melbourne Psychology Student Association, and they are a great way to study for the exam. The exam is going to be very fair. There's not a lot of questions, even though it sounds like 120 questions is a lot. There's really not that many. That's not a lot from any particular section of the course. Each subject area is 3 weeks long approximately, and has got readings and practical classes and lectures, and we'd want to ask lots and lots of questions if we could, but 25 is I think a reasonable amount. And certainly in terms of the time for the exam on the day, you'll be able to complete it well within the time limit. Paul, you're so right. Multiple choice questions are tough to formulate. They really are. I've got a couple of people working with me at the moment who are sort of earlier career researchers, just about to finish their PhDs. And they're trying to write multiple choice questions for the first time. And one of them, who I've been working with, is we're having almost a daily back and forth, learning how to write multiple choice questions and refine them. It really is a process. Certainly, Paul, I think that's a very good question, and I'm glad that you've asked it. Is it necessary to pass the exam to pass Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2? No, it is not necessary to pass the exam to pass Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2. I would be very surprised if many people fail the exam. Very few people fail first-year psychology exams, less than 1% of the cohort. But that aside, you could, in theory, fail the exam and still pass based on the credits that you got from whatever you got right on the exam, plus the assignment, plus the research experience program, of course, as well. So it's a matter of attaining 50% credit overall across the exam, the assignment, the REP, taking all of those things into account. If you receive 58% or higher, then you 58%. What the hell? 50%. Sorry. Oh, long day. Long day. It has been a long day. It has been a weird, weird day. I had an early start. In fact, Nick Haslam and I had a Zoom meeting this morning, first thing. We were playing around with exam questions together. And I thought I had a cruisy day. And then it's just been a cascade of people wanting my time and wanting me to do things. And yeah, it's sort of my days just evaporated. But that's a great question, Paul, because so many people do worry about that. And it is the case that maybe one or two people might fail the exam but have obtained 30% on the exam, and that is enough combined with their assignment mark and their REP to get them over that 50% hurdle to pass the subject altogether. Speaking of hurdles, don't forget that you do need to have done everything in the subject to be eligible to pass the subject. And this means that if you haven't submitted your lab report assignment, you need to contact me as soon as possible, please, because you won't be able to pass. Even if you ace the exam and you've got credit on your REP and you can pass just on that basis, you won't be able to pass without having completed the lab report. And if you haven't completed the lab report, then I've already emailed you twice. But if you've not gotten back to me, or if you've not applied for special consideration and you're yet to complete your lab report, there may be a solution to your problem. You've just got to get in contact with me and we'll be able to work it out. The assessment literacy module, which was the hurdle requirement where you learned about the lab report marking criteria. This is compulsory. You have to complete this in the system in order to be able to receive your mark and graduate from Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2. If you don't do that, then you're not passing the course. You need to do it. And you can still do it now, but you've got to do it now because after the exam is done on what are we talking about, the 23rd? That next day, I'll download the data. So you need to do it to get your mark. We won't release your mark until you've completed the assessment literacy module. The assignment fulfilled the attendance requirements of the subject in terms of practical classes and completed the exam. With the practical classes, if you have not attended a sufficient number of practical classes, then Caitlin and I will email you and we will let you know that there's some additional work that you need to complete. And that email will be coming out really shortly. And don't worry, it's not going to be an exorbitant amount of work, but there will be work there for people that have fallen short of the hurdle that you'll need to make up for that. And psychology subjects are special subjects. They are what we call part of an accredited program. This means that there are certain rules that govern the makeup of the subjects like Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2. And the attendance hurdle requirement is one of those rules. So it's not something that we've just arbitrarily put in there. It's something that the governing organization that deems what is and what isn't acceptable for purposes of training a psychologist. And for some of you, you are beginning your training as psychologists right now here in this subject. and throughout first year, and a certain number of practical classes are and attendance at that are required, and we can make up that hurdle requirement with some writing tasks, but then there needs to be something to meet accreditation, basically. So the assessment literacy module, Danithi, this is on Canvas. You don't need to worry. You can go in and you can do it now. So what I would suggest is that you do that as soon as possible, and you do that as soon as possible, and that way you have got everything sorted out. So the things that you just need to, you've got a little checklist. So did you attend your practical classes? If not, if you didn't attend a sufficient number, we'll email you very shortly and let you know the details of the makeup task. Did you do the assessment literacy module? If not, go and do it. Have you completed your lab report assignment? If not, please email me as soon as possible, and we will be able to work something out. We just actually need to have that conversation and work it out. And then there's sitting the exam as well. REP is not a hurdle, so you don't have to do REP, Professor MCAT. Don't need to do the REP, but you can. There's 5% credit there if you would like to gain that credit and experience what I think is the most important thing, actually experience what psychological research can be like. Hey, Emmanuel, yeah, the link for Peerwise is on Canvas. So if you go to the Canvas modules page, there is a module somewhere or a page for Peerwise. Where is it? Trying to find. Oh, yeah, it's about halfway down. Hey, Daniel. Yeah, the assessment literacy module is we would say it's an equivalent of a 500-word task. So that was that module that you had to go through where you learned how to mark a lab report, and you reviewed previous previous examples of lab reports and so forth. And that is also in the modules section. Assessment literacy module hurdle. And you can see in brackets I've written, you must complete this to be eligible to pass Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2. Oh no, there's not a 500-word requirement. It's just a way we talk about it. We just say that completion of that is equivalent to 500 words of work. So that's fine. Don't need to redo it. If you've done it, that's it. Locked in, all done. I understand the confusion. It's just a way of speaking about it in a way that it satisfies a university administrative matters. So when we think about all different types of assessments, whether they're oral examinations or multiple choice examinations or poster presentations, class presentations, essays, lab reports, quizzes, etc., whatever it is, they all boil down into, or we can convert them into a standard a standardized sort of scale that you can express in terms of words. So what would be equivalent to 500 words? What do we think that would be? How much work would that be? And that's certainly what the REP is. Roughly about equivalent to 500 words. No heart attacks. No heart attacks, Daniel. The multiple choice questions in order of or sections, or are they randomly assorted? Okay, good question. Danithi, Yomna is sort of correct. It's a bit of both, actually. So in the exam, there will first be the clinical questions, then the developmental, then social, then personality, and research methods will be last. Within each one of those blocks, however, the order of the questions that are presented will be randomized, and everybody will get different sets of questions. So a little bit different to Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1. The questions will be of equivalent difficulty, but there will be different questions presented to each person randomly. So this means that we've created far more questions than you will actually receive. So sitting behind the scenes in Canvas, there's, for example, in my clinical psychology section, there's a big bank of questions. And if, Yomna, if you were to sit the exam, your exam will go, give me 25 questions from that bank of clinical questions, and it will pull 25 out. And for Daniel, it will pull out another 25. And for Professor MCAT, it will pull out another 25. Again, selected at random. Not everybody gets the same questions, but they're all equivalent difficulty, and they will come all in a block. And then you'd move on to the developmental block, and the same would happen. It would start to pull questions out of the bank of questions that Abby has developed and is sitting behind the scenes. Johnny T, so we need lab report, assessment literacy module, attendance, sufficient classes, and complete the exam. Is there a question bank for the practice exam? No, Nancy, we've created so many questions for the question banks. I decided to take it easy not take it easy, but not burden the lecturers any further, given that they had created lots of questions for the question bank. No is the answer. You'll always get the same questions in the practice exam. If you are, I'm just considering my emails that I've been going through today. I'm thinking about the trends that I'm seeing in the emails. And probably the primary trend for Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1 is concern about research experience credits. If you've got credits pending, so you've completed your study and there's credits pending there, but the researcher hasn't allocated them yet, then all you need to do is simply please prompt the researcher, send them an email and ask them to award your credit politely, of course. And I will very shortly do the same and ask all of the researchers to award any outstanding credits that are still pending. That's great to hear that you got that sorted out, Daniel. Excellent. So, when you email your researcher that's running the study, just give them a couple of days maybe to make that update and to get back to you. And don't worry, it'll all get sorted out. But if it's been sitting there pending for a long period of time, then I would, yes, email the researcher and ask them to check it out. Hi, Sophie. I've just noticed your question. Will the research method part of the exam be similar difficulty as the practice research methods questions? I suggest they're going to be easier. When you see the practice exam, it will give you a very good flavor of the research methods section of the exam, and I think it's easier than the practice questions that you've got already. And I think you'll be happy. There is no calculation required in the research methods section of the exam. No calculation at all, so you don't need a calculator. Fret not. It will be fine. Any other questions that people had coming to mind, feel free to throw them on in there. Wow, it is really windy outside. Would you believe I actually went to campus last week? What an ordeal that was. I went to pick up something from my office, and there's a whole process that we have to go through. Lots of forms, getting approval from a supervisor. I had to do an online course. I had to fill out a form that was then submitted to get approval. There was, numerous forms. Anyway, I got an email back saying, yes, you're approved to come onto campus. And I checked with the university security. I said, is this the email I need? And they said, yes. And so I then drove the 2 hours to campus to pick up the thing that I needed, 5-minute visit. And they wouldn't let me into the building because the email was not the right email. Oh, Lord. But I've now received the right email, so at some point I need to go back again. Certainly taking COVID security seriously on campus. So face-to-face learning is not going to be a thing next semester, Denithi. Summer school is not going to be face-to-face. Very few things will be face-to-face in 2021. I think even in semester 2, I cannot see this changing. Semester 1, 2021 is going to be pretty much all online. Certainly lectures again. Well, obviously I'm speaking for first year psychology, but it's pretty much going to be, I think, the deal with everything that, until there's a vaccine or something for COVID, I don't see us getting together in a lecture theatre. Practical classes, I don't foresee these being face-to-face again either. Unfortunately, there's just not the space to do it. if we wanted to run face-to-face lectures, we'd need somewhere the size of the MCG to do it whilst observing social distancing rules. It is I know it's weird. You guys have just found yourself in the era of, as Replica says here, Zoom University students. It's obviously dragging out longer than anyone would have thought. Well, than we would have hoped. It's going to be some time before we're able to all get together. I don't know if you guys saw, but our dean, Kshitij Kapoor, so the dean of the medicine, dentistry, and health sciences faculty, did a live stream last week with Dr. Fauci from the United States. And one of the questions, the dean posed to him was, when can we go to a cinema together? So in other words, when can we go to a lecture? Everybody go sit in a lecture theater together. And his advice was not for a very long time until a vaccine is forthcoming. So, thank you, Paul. That's good to hear. Yeah. So obviously everybody's had to pivot and learn how to do things online this year. It is what it is. But now that I think about it for you guys, this is lasting more than a year now, and it's not the university experience I'm sure that you had in mind. For so many of you, I know that you would have been wanting to come and travel to Melbourne, and even if you were in the state, or even if you're in the city, just traveling to campus every day would be a really interesting and exciting thing. And I get that, and it is, to tell you the truth. I loved the campus university experience as an undergrad and a postgrad, and as someone who works there now. I do miss it. I do miss even the little things like the coffee rituals, which is now why I have an obscenely expensive Italian espresso machine in my kitchen, thanks to my partner, who decided to help me out with my impoverished coffee situation, which was very nice. The precious, as I call it. But it is what it is. And, there's pros and cons. Under normal circumstances, would you get to have an open book exam in psychology? Hell no. You would be in the Royal Exhibition building freaking out at all of the content that you have to remember. So now you get to sit back in your recliner chair at home. Coffee is important. Absolutely, Yuan. And you get to have your exam browser tab open and your Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2 browser content browser tab open. And, it's, I think it surely has to be a less stressful experience. And hopefully in due course, we get a vaccine and we can all get together at some point on campus and experience some of what university life was and will be again, no doubt. When can you apply for summer subjects? Yeah, that's an interesting question, Mustafa. I don't even know if you can. I've heard a rumor that you can for the first time ever, which is unusual, because generally we don't let undergrad students into the summer subjects because they're very fast-paced, they're very intensive, and generally you want to have a degree under your belt to have established a certain sort of skill set before you put yourself under that pressure. Let me just ask somebody really quickly via a messenger app here. Yuan, you could certainly have a coffee while you're sitting the exam. I would recommend it. It may even help with recall if you also studied whilst you were caffeinated, which you probably did. Daniti, so I noticed there's been a lot of questions about what the... Yeah, Paul, it was previously for the grad dips. I have heard something about us potentially taking undergrads this summer. And so I'm not sure. Yes, Yuan, I will be teaching some summer content. Will we receive an email notice if we can apply for the summer subject? Yeah, well, my friend who coordinates the summer program has not seen my message that I've sent him just yet. Leave it with me and I'll provide you with more information. Yeah, I'll give you more information as soon as I know. Oh, that's so sweet, Delara. Maybe we should start a Groot subject. What do you reckon? Just about all things Groot. Groot 102. A letter. Sorry, I missed your question. There will be a practice exam. I'm just waiting on the final 5 questions from one of the lecturers. As soon as I've got that, I'll make it available, but I might just make it available anyway, let people do it as much as they like, and then I'll add in the 5 questions at some point. Okay, here's the thing with the average score on the lab report or on lab reports, essays, and whatnot. As a matter of practice, I never release these. I don't think it's a helpful thing for anyone for numerous reasons. So, number one, the distribution is subject to change at the end of the semester with Board of Examiners reports. If the distribution comes out all wacky, I'm going to have to fix it in some way. When I say wacky, I mean divergent from what we would expect. So if you think back to Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1, at the end of the semester, I sent you guys a results report which told you about how I manipulated the distribution of marks for Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1 to bring it into a place where it should have been. So much is new and weird this semester, and it plays out in terms of marks and this year. So this whole COVID thing, this whole online thing, the examination modality, all of the assignments are new. All of the way we're delivering the whole thing is new, and so there's important considerations around that. Now, it doesn't really matter that much for first-year psychology because first-year psychology does not count towards your entrance to honors, for example. But nonetheless, we like to keep the distributions year by year relatively consistent. They should be. You can imagine how that would play out across second and third year subjects. If there was incredible variation from year to year, in terms of distribution scores and people's performance on any given subject. You can imagine the equity issues for our honours entrance and master's entrance and so forth. So we do go through a process of scrutinising and adjusting marks at the end of the semester. It's almost invariably in the upwards direction. So if you look back to the marks results report that I released at the end of Mind, Brain and Behaviour 1, you'll see me having talked about stretching the entire distribution. So the distribution was a little bit bunched at the top end, and we know why that is. That's a human artifact, and so we stretched out the top bit and we raised everybody up. Everybody who was at 48 went up to 50. So people who had technically failed got bumped up. So there's a few adjustments that I will make that will give a completely different context to the lab report marks to the way they are now. And just by definition, if I was to release the mean and the standard deviation, I'm probably going to disappoint at least half of the class when they compare themselves to others. So I prefer that you just focus on yourselves because I prefer you all to be happy. Yeah, so I hope that explains that. And when I do, invariably, I will make some adjustments to the distribution of marks for Mind, Brain and Behaviour 2 overall. And that will, again, probably be upward stretching. It's the way it generally plays out. I will, again, circulate a document that's a results processing report that shows you the breakdown then of the entire cohort and of the marks and what was done to the marks. Good question, Denise. How can we get into a study group? Yeah, time to start a study group if you haven't already. Start a discussion board thread, maybe. Petition to bring back the sunset assignment. I set the sunset assignment on fire and threw it in the bin. Only kidding. I actually really like the sunset assignment. I used to love marking it. And some of the most memorable pieces of writing that I've marked were actually the submissions for the sunset assignment. But that has gone the way of the dodo for now. If you do neuroscience of the mind in third year with Dr. Jason Fort and Dr. Simon Cropper, you will get to do something like the sunset assignment. The problem with the sunset assignment, Delara, was it certainly had its good points, and I think overall it's an excellent exercise. When it came to quantifying some aspects of it, that was difficult. You might recall, clearly sounds like you've done it, but you might recall that maybe guidelines were quite blurry around the sunset assignment, and in the contemporary university environment, we all need, apparently, very well-defined criteria. And there was a point in time when I first started marking the sunset assignment back in 2007, that there were no marking criteria for the sunset assignment whatsoever. In fact, when I did my honours year at Melbourne University, Simon Cropper was the fourth year lecturer for sensation and perception and cognition, that sort of thing. And his assignment to us was to, that's right, it was write about whatever you like So no topic, just come up with your own topic, write about whatever you like, and hand in a mixtape. Or a mix CD. Pre-streaming days, right? So that was interesting, and it caused great anxiety in the cohort of honors students, all of whom, were vying for the highest possible H1 marks, to get a PhD scholarship or something like that. But, it actually turned out to be a great process. And it was from that assignment that I developed the idea for my PhD. How many students in the MBB2 cohort, Paul? Believe we have approximately 1,800 at this given point in time. 1,800 and something. Yeah, Facebook groups. Good suggestion, Yumna. Absolutely. Facebook groups for study groups for mind brain behavior 2 are a thing. Definitely do that. Yumna, a petition to make group 2001 a breath subject. Yeah, definitely. A breath of fresh air. Are you taking a summer subject, Paul? Mind brain and behavior 1, perhaps? All right. So anyway, I will find out more about the summer subjects. Danithi, it is, but it's let me get back to you. I'll get back to you about that. I'll make an announcement as regards whether or not mind, brain, and behavior 1 and 2 are available to undergrad students in summer. I've heard that they are this year, but let me get back to you once I have that advice. And if so, I'll announce that, and you'll be able to sort it all out. Yeah, I'm just going to go and add in. Actually, I'm just going to import the practice exam into mind, brain, and behavior 2 as soon as we finish streaming, and make it available for you. And there'll be some more questions to come, 5 more questions to come at some point, but I'll leave it so that you can do it as much as possible. And this exam is going to be the most representative in terms of, so this practice exam will be very representative in terms of difficulty and so forth. And regards what you can expect in the final exam. So we are just about out of time, but we do have, it's Wednesday now. We've got another session on Monday, I think. Monday at 10 a.m. Oh, what a way to kick off the week. So Monday at 10 a.m., we've got another session. You may or may not be into your clinical or research method study by then, but if you happen to be, then please feel free to come along and ask me any questions that you may have about those particular topic areas. Very happy to get into specific questions around clinical and research methods as well, and very happy to also discuss by then the practice exam with you too. So what do you reckon? It's 3:25. Should I wake the precious up and do another espresso shot, or am I going to be able to make it through the rest of the day with my sugar-free green cordial? Who out there is going to do a coffee? Mid-afternoon, what do you think? Can you make it through with your study schedule without it? I'm feeling like I could maybe do just a small espresso. You already have yours. Very good. Yeah, it sort of is needed, isn't it? It's almost not a question. Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, I think that's probably our time. Slap on the back of the head for you. Just do it, Mustafa. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. And we've got, I think, 3 more of these before the exam. So definitely start to come along. 1, 2. Yeah, 3. So we've got 2. So we've got Mondays coming up. So Monday the 9th, Monday the 16th, and then the day of the exam for most people. We've got an early one, an early stream that day as well. But do start to come along with your specific questions about content, and I'll be very happy to help out. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. Go get caffeinated. Go for a walk. Go do what you must. Relax. Look after yourselves. And I will speak to you again very, very soon. All right. Take care, everyone. Happy studying. Bye for now.